Hey guys, hope you're all doing well and that you've been keeping safe. Welcome back to another candid video where I just share various thoughts on some of the things that are presently happening inside of Earth 2. The first thing that I wanted to talk about quickly is the resource validation system that we have upcoming to be released next month through June. This resource validation system, as we've alluded to, will give benefits to players who successfully validate resources on their property which they believe exist on their property but have not been, for whatever reason, detected by our systems. So I'll just give a very quick rundown on how this will work. A player will have the opportunity to submit a validation. Other players will have the opportunity to validate or support that submission of the resource request, validation request. Now, a player who submits the validation for resources, they can in fact also support their own request. When you support a request, you stake essence. Now, there'll be a certain limit of essence that can be staked on every request, and we're hoping that the way that we are going to structure it will allow for multiple people to be involved with validating a request, but one of the people or players who are validating the request can be the actual person or player who submitted the validation themselves. If the validation is successful, they will get back bonus essence on top of what they staked on the request or the validation. So I'll give you a quick scenario. Let's say that I'm a player, I've got tiles in a certain country. I believe I have a gold mine that is located on where my tiles are at, and it's not showing up on the Earth 2 resource heat map yet. Therefore, I go and submit a request to have these resources validated. I obviously believe strongly in my request, and I stake essence, 100 essence or something like that. I stake essence to validate that request because I'm supporting my own request. Other players can also come in and stake essence up to a certain amount per property. Once that property is validated to in fact have that resource, if it is all correct, every player who's staked their essence in that validation will get back a higher percentage. It could be 20%, 30%, could be 50%. They will get a higher amount of essence versus what they staked. Now, there have also been questions about players validating resources in the same area. There might be a player or players who have tiles that are associated to the same gold mine or the same location for oil or whatever it may be. In this situation, you really need to stake your request to validate the resources as early as possible if you want to get that bonus essence for successfully validating or requesting resources on the property. What this means is that, let's say that player 1 has gone in, they've got a property that's on a gold mine, they've submitted a request to validate that gold mine. Once that validation goes through, once the gold mine becomes validated by our team, not in all cases, but in many cases, what we will do is cast a net over any other existing validations in that direct area. So we can grant the validation for all of those in the same area. So if you do not have an active request in place, you will get that resource when it's validated if your property falls within the area that we grant the resource permission to, the permission for the resource to exist. However, if you do not have that request in place with essence staked, you won't get the essence bonus. Because of this, we plan to allow probably like a week at least for players to get in and submit their validations on properties that they believe have the resource that they're requesting in the first instance, like gold, oil, whatever it may be in the future. So we'll give that buffer zone probably a week or so to players to be able to make sure that they're request is in place. However, after that week's time, if that resource gets validated on a property, we're going to cast the net and say, okay, all these other properties in the area will automatically get it. If you have an existing request in place and essence staked, you'll automatically receive that essence bonus once just one property is validated in that area. What this obviously helps us to do is the system that we're building is that we can validate places and include multiple validation requests in one approval, as opposed to us going through thousands, hundreds, thousands of approvals at the same time. So we kind of cast the net and validate a whole group. But if you don't have your request in place, you'll miss the essence bonus, but not the resource itself. Hope that makes sense. So a couple of weeks ago, I asked some of my team members to have a look through Discord and just take screenshots of things that sounded interesting or statements that were interesting. And the purpose behind that is just to collect some interesting thoughts from the community, which I can then incorporate into my video here, my candid thoughts, giving me something to talk about, which people are actually actively requesting information on. I'm not sure if this is going to happen every time, so just spamming questions in Discord might not end up in this, might not be give a guarantee that it's going to end up here in the list of questions, but it's just something we thought to do. So I'm going to go through some statements and questions from the Discord now. I'm going to give my thoughts and feedback on those questions progressively, and I hope this works. Let's see how it goes. So I'm just going to read the questions off my screen and then talk about it. So we've got a question from Jad, and sorry if I pronounce anybody's username handle incorrectly. I can't help but notice on these vlogs where they show a property, the buildings are never on an outer tile. Will our buildings have to remain at least one tile from the property's edge? This would mean the smallest buildable property is 9 tiles. And that's a great observation. So in the vlogs that we show, they're just examples of properties. I wouldn't take too seriously what the border is, or how many tiles are on the border, but it is a valid question because we're all thinking about road systems and how the road system is going to function inside like a village or a city or a mega city or whatever it may be, or even just a small cluster of buildings. So what I can answer quickly on this is that the tiles that we're showing in the vlogs, up until even the vlog that we're going to release shortly, they are based on like a proper 10 by 10 meter square tile. However, that is not the actual size of what the tiles will be inside of Earth 2. So the size will be somewhat bigger. So I think it's maybe the vlog, not the next vlog, but maybe the one after or the one after that, where we are going to display how the road system will work inside of an Earth 2 city, or when properties are in close vicinity with one another or proximity to one another. We're going to show how that system works. And what you'll see is that the tiles, and this will be synonymous across all of the tiles inside of Earth 2, the tile sizes are somewhat larger. This will allow for the building size to remain quite similar to what we've been demoing, but it will allow a perimeter around the tile that will be used in a special way to allow navigation within properties that have close proximity and build these kind of internal road systems inside of the city. So interesting question. Hope that gives you an answer or something to think about for now, and I'll have a look at the next question. Okay, the next question here is from Futuristic, and Futuristic says, what's the point of merging if you can just buy a 750, he or she means a 750 tile property. People have plenty of those. So this is about merging tiles. So the question is being asked, if you have such a large property, why would you want to merge it? And Reed Bird from Virtual Buzzworld answers, and he answers correctly. I'm assuming it's a him because he's got a profile photo that looks male. And he's saying it's for the people who have bought one tile farms. And this has been a thing where players have bought one tile properties to farm whatever it may be, jewels or whatever they're doing there. They've got their own little strategy. So yes, to have certain types of ecosim setups inside of Earth 2, you do need a few tiles, like whatever, 10 tiles, 5 tiles, whatever it may be. What we've done is, or what we're working on, is giving the player the ability to merge their tiles together for this exact reason. If they want to expand on their property, if they need to make it a little bit bigger to facilitate something that they decided to grow, or that they decided to build toward, which their property cannot handle at the moment, then they at least have the ability to do that. And for, these one tile property farms that are right next to each other, at least give them the ability to be able to merge their properties should they wish to. And I'm not going to go into all the merging of properties now and what that's going to involve. I know a lot of people talk about it possibly involving essence and costing something. We haven't got all of those plans laid down just yet. And yeah, I can see EBVK responds to that and says, I don't think you realize just how big a 1 by 750 tile property is, let alone 2. So that's very true. A 750 tile property is quite significant. It's massive. And I don't think we would want people merging multiple 750 tile properties. And we have a statement here from Mr. Green, who has a bot tick, so Mr. Green must be confirmed as a bot. Mr. Green says, I feel for us to get millions, if not tens of millions, of people involved in this and playing it, that the crypto aspect needs to be made easy, or they need to put out some detailed instructions on how to do it. And this is a good point. The way that we're looking to set up our crypto strategy, or our token, so to speak, will be quite straightforward. We want to have a bridge between the internal Earth 2 system and the Web3 exchanges, or wherever players might be able to trade their token, the token obviously being Essence. So we'll have a system where the token can remain inside of Earth 2 and be used for utility and purpose inside of the Earth 2 metaverse. But we want to make it as easy as possible when a player wants to take that token out and take it to an exchange to trade it or do whatever they want with it, because that's their right, they've earned that token. We want to make that process as simple as possible. I know a lot of players are talking about custodial and non-custodial, and we probably will be going like a non-custodial route, but we'll be doing a lot of the legwork for the player. So the player and those who don't understand crypto very well and wallets and how they function, we will be kind of hand-holding, doing a lot of hand-holding for those players that want to take their essence out of Earth 2 and go and trade it. So yes, it's a good statement, it's a good point, and it is important for us to really supply those detailed instructions or make it as easy as possible, and that's definitely what we're planning to do. We got another one here from Mr. Green, the bot, and he says, Shane, I am not going to merge my singles. It would mess up the heat map art, so don't screw me over and at least make them useful somehow. So yeah, I mean, it is a funny statement, and but it's true. Like, it's something that we need to consider is the tile art, really, the heat map or the tile art, and merging them together in some cases would mean that the tile art would become, it might become obscured. So this is something that we are thinking about. From a flag perspective, this is something that we're thinking about. I guess from a heat map perspective, it's going to be much as like you bought the single tiles to get a short-term benefit of farming more jewels. You will have the option to merge those single tiles if you would like to use those tiles to play or be part of a larger ecosim, have larger ecosim setup. So you will have that option, at least. It's better than not having that option. But I agree, like from a tile art perspective, at the moment, the recent upgrade we made allows every property to have a separate flag. But if you've got tile art with a lot of single properties, and those single properties obviously have different flags on them for you to be able to, display your tile art, which is awesome. I understand merging them together would remove the ability for that tile art to be displayed. So what I'm looking at in this area to avoid people losing out on the tile art, it's not high on the importance or the agenda right now. It's not a high priority. However, we are looking at allowing players to, inside one single property, change the flags on each and every single tile. So you could have like a 100 tile property and you can select which type of flag you want to fly on each property. And this might be like a different filter in where that shows, because the purpose really for the flags is to show which country that player is affiliating their property to, and that is important long term. So we are kind of balancing things here. That's just a quick little bit of feedback on how that might be handled, and I hope that makes sense. And yeah, Chris replied to that one and said, Jewel farm, guess that may be all they are useful for. And then Didon data, sorry, Didon data if I got that wrong. Yeah, if merge means no tile art, I'm out with singles too. So yeah, hopefully we can preserve that ability for tile art, because it is very creative. I love the tile art, and I don't want to release something that's going to rule all the tile art out today. Okay, we have a message here from Drew, and happy birthday, Drew. Hope you're having a great birthday. So Drew says, clicking transform is not a good way to get essence. Going to each property or something similar when we get more gameplay is definitely coming. Shane said it will be more difficult, which is good news. Another reason that as time goes by, many of us have far too many properties to handle on our own. I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more about scholars. So yeah, it's a great comment, Drew. And when Drew refers to scholars, he's talking about basically our upcoming ability to contract your properties to ecosim players. So the players who do have a lot of properties, it is going to be more and more difficult for that player to manage all of their properties, just like it is in the real world. And that player is going to have the ability to, we're not calling it a scholar, but they're going to have the ability to contract with other types of players, as players will do on Earth 2 throughout the whole course of the future of Earth 2. We'll have different contracts for a lot of different things. But in this case, players who have a lot of properties will be able to contract ecosim players or people who are focused on playing the ecosim, and that contract will then split whatever is produced inside of that property between the owner of the property and the ecosim player who is responsible for managing that property if a contract is in place. And yes, that's a whole different rabbit hole. I'm not going to go down into all of it now. I'd probably take a few long minutes to go into more detail, but yeah, we'll have systems where players will have probably reviews of how good they are as an ecosim player, making sure that property owners can connect with the right type of ecosim player, and also like splits, I guess. If it's a new ecosim player, maybe they get a lower split on the reward or whatever, the produce of the properties that they look after to build a name for themselves, so to speak. And ecosim players will be responsible for other things too, like transportation and other things, just jewels, jewel slotting, maybe even jewel crafting. Having a lot of knowledge in how the ecosim works will be very beneficial for ecosim players. Yeah, we got another quick comment here from Zach Friday. I don't know if that's like a different way to say Friday, but I'm just going to say Zach Friday. By the way, will E2, if it's successful in the future, have a virtual reality optional gameplay for those types of glasses which are being created and developed by big tech, or will it be strictly for PC? So that's a great question, Zach. And I guess the quick answer is yes. So what we're building now at Earth 2 is the visual platform, and what we want to achieve in the future is for new hardware, whether it be VR, AR, whatever it may be, that it can connect to the visual platform, the visual metaverse that we're building. Like, for example, we acquired Drone the game. You can put an Oculus headset on right now. You can jump into Drone the game and kind of feel what that's like with an Oculus headset on. You can do that type of thing. I think it's supported by Steam. What we're building in Earth 2 is the visual kind of platform for what we see as the future of the metaverse becoming. We're not building hardware, we're not building these additional haptic suits or whatever they may be that will become more and more important in the metaverse long term. What we are doing is, we want to be affiliated with those type of companies, and we want to build a visual platform that allows those companies to connect their hardware into. So hopefully that makes sense. Initially, yeah, it will be PC based, and we're doing things in steps. So we're trying to release interesting game loops or things for people to do inside the metaverse as we build toward this longer goal. Okay, we've got another question here or a statement from Simone S, or I'd say Simone S. So Simone S says, one thing I was thinking is, I know the upcoming phase probably will just be temporary, or it could work underneath the next phase, as I really hope to walk around during phase 3 in a world not full of little technical buildings, but more in nature or organized cities and small villages perhaps. Yeah, so of course what we're building now will work, as you said, kind of underneath the next phase. It will become part of phase 3, this phase 2, this kind of phase 2.5, or this visual phase 2 that we're building. It is the foundations for phase 3. Phase 3 will come at some point in the future. It'll be many years building up to that. However, what we're building now will be important for phase 3. And of course, like, the world is massive. We've sold a fraction of how many tiles there are available in the world. There'll be a lot of nature, a lot of trees, a lot of places to go and explore, as it is now and as it will be in the future. That will always be part of the future. And I'm sure that some people who own tiles, they might not be into like the eco-sim building. They may just want to create some beautiful experience, or create like a natural reserve or something like that. So I'm sure that it's not all going to be just little technical buildings full of technical buildings, but the buildings that we'll be providing, you will be able to build them into like small villages or organized cities or mega cities, whatever that may be, and they will be some pretty cool, amazing experiences there. So we've got another comment here, a really nice comment from Eugene Boondock, who is a confirmed NPC. So Eugene Boondock, he said, I just love how Earth 2 is being built, a 3D Earth, the grand metaverse. Think of the things being incorporated into Earth 2, an exchange, a mega market to sell and buy digital goods, buildings, drones, etc., a social media platform, a virtual card, MasterCard, an open world paradise, P versus P, business strategies, moving cargo, resources, defense system, guilds. Shane keeps his eyes on some of the VR glasses setups. Yeah, I do. It's gonna be wild. And I don't know, this comment is very interesting. And even in that short paragraph that Eugene has shared here, you can start to see how many moving cogs there are to what we're building. And sometimes it might feel like things are moving slow, but that is also because there really are so many different cogs that we're working on. And as those cogs come together, you'll start to see the Earth 2 metaverse really start to function, and I guess people will start to realize what the potential and opportunities are inside of what we're building. So we're happy with just focusing on building stuff at the moment. We know we receive criticism from a lot of different places on things that we do. In fact, almost every little thing we do we get criticized for. But we're happy just kind of focusing on these multiple areas that we're building. We feel very confident that when these different areas or cogs come together, it is going to be crazy. It's going to be a really interesting place to visit, the Earth 2 metaverse, a place to do things and a place to exist and a place to have your digital representation of yourself inside the metaverse. And just looking at like these things that Eugene have listed here, as I said, you know, like a massive open world, you're going to have P versus P, you're going to have, you know, business or ecosim strategies, you'll have cargo moving around everywhere, you've got resources, you're going to have defense systems, you're going to have, in many cases, guilds, you're going to have to be associated with people, other players in different ways. So there are so many different things that are going to come together. We're still getting there, we're still building toward that, but when the pieces start connecting, there'll be a lot of things to do. So yeah, thanks for a cool comment. Thanks, Eugene. We've got a comment here from Aussie1, Prime Jewels plus Holo. So that's pretty cool. Must be into jewels and holo buildings. And Aussie1 says, okay, so resources can be woven without any ecosim buildings constructed. Was the Weaver part of the Mentor? So just to answer that quickly, yes, the Weaver is included. It's an internal part of the Mentor. So yes, you can have a Mentor sitting on a tile. That Mentor has a Weaver inside it that has the ability to weave the resources into raw materials, or the detection of resources into raw materials. Limited building blocks can be held by each ecosim building before needing to be transported to local storage or transported away to be traded at a different location. This sounds like there will be trading hubs. My new theory is that there will be added value of owning tiles in an Earth 2 verified megacity. They will be the only place where trades can happen. Now, I mean, interesting kind of theories that you have there, which I thought was pretty cool. I'm not sure if it's going to be limited to verified megacities, but yeah, there will be trading hubs. And what I would like to do, what we're working on at the moment, is that, you know, there will be specific buildings for these trading hubs. And I don't know how much work will be involved in building a trading hub, but I imagine there will probably be some significant work involved to play the ecosim to be able to build a trading hub, and they would be kind of places that players would strategically visit to trade in or do other things in. So I just, that comment was pretty cool, and trading hubs, the concept of trading hubs is very cool. So I thought I'd just leave those few comments on that for now. We have another one here from Aussie1. Transportation vehicles will have different attributes and suited best for specific activities. Theory is that jewels can also be used to improve these attributes. Heck, it even said some transport vehicles will be designed for specific cargo types. I'm thinking log truck for wood, oil tanker for oil. For this, it would make sense that jewels of those specific colors would be used to boost them. Also, maybe jewels might be some sort of fuel source, and that will allow a jewel burn mechanic. So yeah, great theories again. And I thought this is something I just comment on very quickly. Yes, jewels will have multiple utility inside of Earth 2. At the moment, the main utility is obviously increasing the detection of ether and like slotting them on, crafting and slotting them onto your Mentor. However, they're going to have a lot more utility in many different areas, and you'll probably find in the transport area is one of those, and many other areas. So I just wanted to confirm that. Okay, so I guess this is probably taking a little bit of time now. I'll try and speed things up because I realize this is going to be a very long video. Wasn't intended to be, but I don't often get a lot of time, so I'm trying to just jump in and cram all this stuff into one session. So I hope you guys could appreciate that, and I'll try and move through it as quickly as possible. Maybe there's just information throughout this video that some people will find interesting should you have the time to look through it, or realize that people are busy and they don't have the time to do that often. In any case, I've got a question here from Zeus. That's Zeus from E2 News, amazing website that they've created there. And he says, I have an interesting question. Does Earth 2 rotate? Will it have light and darkness as hours pass? And yeah, I agree. That's a super interesting question. It's something that I've thought about quite a lot. Now, in the initial version of E2 V1, I'm not sure that version, that whether or not we'd be implementing like a day-night system, but long term, I do definitely want to have day-night cycles. Whether or not there'd be multiple day-night cycles in one day of Earth 2 versus one day in Earth 1, or another thing that I've considered is, this is something that I've kind of am leaning toward, is that we swap things around. So if it's night in your country, then it's daytime in Earth 2, and vice versa. If it's daytime in your country, it's night in Earth 2. That would suggest that maybe people, might be more prevalent to logging into Earth 2 or tapping into Earth 2 of a nighttime, meaning that, that it'll be daytime for them when they tap in. Now, this is just something I'm considering. Nothing's final. By all means, leave comments below about what your thoughts are on that, or should we just have a system where day is day and night is night? The only issue I see with that is every time when people log in at night, it's literally night in Earth 2, and I'm sure that people who have that spare time of an evening would also want to be experiencing some daylight. So anyway, if you guys have interesting thoughts about how we could do that, I'd love to hear them. By all means, leave it in the comments below. Some people from my office read through the comments, and I'm sure they'll let me know if there's anything interesting in there. So please do. Okay, we got another question here from Pacey of Shun City. So cool. Pacey does a lot of good work, by the way. He makes some amazing tutorials and videos on Earth 2. Love your work, Pacey, and picking up a question or a statement from you here. So I think the general conversation around this response that Pacey wrote was we need more people coming into Earth 2. We need to have more players, which is true. I mean, and it will come. And what Pacey has said here is, well, we need more stuff for them to do first. The big opportunities for land flipping, jewel farms, getting new country unlocks, they're almost gone. I mean, a lot of people still do it. There's people still playing every day and getting that heads up leading into the future phases. But he goes on to say the next wave, or then he means the next wave, will be the free-to-play players or gamers, and for that we at least need the ecosim. If they push big advertisement now, they will come, but they won't stay long. I can see them doing a huge campaign once we do have it. And this is a really, it's a smart observation, and it absolutely makes sense. And that's what we're doing. There's no point in doing a big push right now where we don't, when we don't have a lot to do inside of Earth 2, especially in with the 3D element game loops. Gamers are a notoriously difficult group to please. They have high expectations for things, and the gamers themselves are a notoriously difficult group to please at the best of times. So the gamers are one side, but we'll get players. They might not necessarily be gamers at first, but we will have players, and we'll have just everyday people interacting on Earth 2. We want to open up, I guess, the 3D visualization of Web 2 in a sense. And we want people to start interacting in 3D as opposed to 2D. That's one of our first goals. But long term, we need the ecosim to be in place. We need more game loops around there. We need 3D gameplay. We need probably P versus P. We need conflict. We need more things to do inside of Earth 2 before we do that massive push. And doing that push too early will just be a complete waste of time and effort. So at the moment, we're happy building things, and once we get closer to the ecosim, the next wave, or the next group of interesting things to do on Earth 2, it could come with the token launch, or shortly after with E2v1 or a couple of other areas. But when we see or feel that we're ready, that's when we'll push. And it won't be really until there's interesting things to do, and conflict and P versus P and stuff like that. So good observation, and I just wanted to add a couple of comments to that. We have another comment here from Aussie1, and Aussie1 said, what do we think houses, shops, transportation stations, skyscrapers, educational facilities, and social hubs will do for the ecosim specifically? So, great question, and I guess these buildings will perform similar functions to what their titles say. So, you've got houses, that's like residential. These will be customizable personal spaces for Earth 2 players to own and kind of set up their own individual private area that they could display their 3D goods. They can customize, have their friends over and what have you. So that, houses, shops, same commercial experience. If you want to have a shop inside of Earth 2, you're going to have to interact with the ecosim to some extent and build a shop that can be a commercial shop, and you can provide your own commercial experience, or you can link to a commercial experience that may not necessarily be directly inside of Earth 2. Transportation stations, yes, so vehicles, transportation are going to be big things inside of Earth 2, moving goods around, moving digital goods, moving raw materials and building blocks and things like that, and many other types of things. So transportation stations may come in, may be important during those types. Skyscrapers, again, like office buildings, commercial experiences. In fact, you'll probably see a little bit about that in the next vlog that we're going to release. Educational facilities. So again, there'll be some teasers in the next vlog that we'll release, but I won't say anything. Just watch the next vlog. But educational facilities, you'll need to train things in the future inside of Earth 2. And social hubs. Well, social hubs, it's just like the real world, the areas for people to socialize, and maybe players will focus on this, creating really cool environments that people like meeting up and socializing in. So they'll have various levels of things that they do inside of the ecosim, and various reasons to have them in certain locations. He goes on to say, also I'm excited to see the different style variations of these building types, like modern, sci-fi, mythical, Asian, cyberpunk, brutalist, plus many more. And yeah, we're excited to show them as well. They are a work in progress. We haven't released any other styles yet. We're focusing on one style, and we will continue to focus on the one style right now in the near future. But we're as excited as you are to see them. We're as excited as to release them. So you will be seeing different styles. So the styles that you see in the vlogs at the moment, that's one style. Those buildings will have multiple other styles that players will be able to select when building. So the ones that you see now, they're only one style of building, one particular style. There'll be a lot of other styles released for every single building. All right, we've got a comment here from Mr. Wolf, and Mr. Wolf says, I think places like Manhattan or big cities won't be areas for ecosim structures. I imagine that places like a museum for NFTs, concerts, game arenas, and AR stuff, something tied to real places' activities in that location, I think he means that would be pretty cool. I think, for example, Coca-Cola would pay big money to install a promoting AR sign in Times Square or Piccadilly Circus. They could take advantage of the higher foot traffic, and the user who would own that tile would earn more in this way than with a lignator. Yeah, that's a very interesting observation, and it's something that me personally, I'm really curious to see what happens. You may be exactly right in that theory. It may be that cities in the real world end up being replicated inside of Earth 2, and these are places where people congregate, and it's more valuable to really have your ecosim buildings out somewhere else and transport the requirements in to build these kind of commercial or residential whatever experiences inside a city. It might be a better strategy to do that. Or maybe it's better to, you've got a big property in the middle of the city, maybe you've got some of it working as an ecosim, and it's powering, you've got that right next to where your residential and your commercial are, the buildings are located. So I think it's a really interesting observation, really plausible in a number of different ways. But at the end of the day, that's the type of stuff we'll be very interested to see as well. Like, what happens? Do people do players like build cities out in the middle of nowhere in a different country and then try to attract online traffic into that city because it's such an epic place to visit? I mean, there's a lot of different strategies that I think are going to come into play. It's just really interesting theorizing around those. So anyway, I thought that was a really cool little statement. Just wanted to add my 2 cents. So we have a comment here from Crush City. And Crush City says, do you think people will have to transport resources to their property if they buy from someone off the market? I could see localized resource markets if transportation is too costly. Not sure it will work that way though. So yeah, really interesting comment there, Crush City, and thanks for making that comment. Again, I think this is going to be an interesting thing to see. I think there will potentially be localized resource markets, maybe localized trade centers for different reasons. And I think this will be something that we will realize over a period of time after the EcoSim initially launches. And to answer your first question there, yes, players will very likely have to transport, well, they will have to transport raw materials or building blocks to their property if they buy it from someone else or maybe pay somebody to deliver it. So there will be a lot of different strategies in many different areas of the EcoSim when it goes 3D, let me tell you that. We've got another little group of comments or conversation here that was picked up, and it started off there from Dark. I'm really sorry. I know that I've got that wrong. I see this player, Daya K, comment often in Discord, and they always have some really interesting things to say. But here, Derek is saying, what do you think would be the community reaction if the number one sold out tomorrow? After all, it is 1% of all the tiles in the game. Yes, there is like the top person on the leaderboard does have I think like almost 1 million tiles or so, or over 1 million tiles, which is phenomenal. But I look at that as part of who we are, who Earth 2 is. It wouldn't be the first player. We have had other top players in Earth 2 just not be happy with something and then bang, I'm not into Earth 2 anymore and I'm out of here, which is absolutely their right to do. It's their own, they're free to do as they please. And I think we've seen it causes some ripples in the community, but I think we've seen that everybody remains pretty vigilant, and at the end of the day, it just kind of fades out. It's just part of what Earth 2 is. We have leaderboards. People at the top of the leaderboards, they get that extra attention. At the moment, the leaderboards are kind of focused on how much, what people have purchased, but I do want to move away from that. I want to have leaderboards that are focusing on the players that are winning the most P versus Ps, the ones who are doing the best in the EcoSim, the ones who are transporting the best, the one who, have the most successful transportation routes, or, they get their goods to where they need to go, things like that. So there will be many, many additional leaderboards in Earth 2, and I'm sure players at the top of all of those leaderboards will have some kind of influence or notoriety to them across the community. But at the end of the day, people move on. They move on to other things. Some people like to make a big song and dance about it when they move on. Some people, they just move on. I don't know that you would interpret that in any which way. It's happened to date. It's probably going to happen again. And it's just, I look at it as just part of Earth 2. This is who we are. People have their own free will to do as they please. So yeah, it is an interesting comment, and as other people have replied under there, well, if somebody decides they've had enough, there are a lot of people there who just buy their stuff. So it is quite interesting. Anyway, they're my 2 cents. Just thought I'd share that, and thanks for the comment. Got another comment here from Aussie One. Boy, we've had some few quotes from Aussie One. Such a interesting mind. So Aussie1 says, to me, it is SimCity meets Google Earth in an MMO where you own parts of the globe permanently and build your own city and make real money from it. Then as time moves on, the platform morphs into additional experiences. See, this guy kind of gets it. He's looking at what we're building and piecing things together. Of course, like the phase 2 stuff that we're building now, I mean, you could say it's got similarities to SimCity. It's got similarities to a lot of different games, a lot of type of even like RTS games out there. You know, it's a metaverse. It's going to have these game-like elements in it. So there are a lot of similarities, and there is a lot of interest in that alone, like a full, like he says Google Earth, but we're talking about Earth 2, our own one-to-one scale size RTS kind of trading, whatever, like trading platform, resources generation, building, all of these kind of things on a global scale. That in itself is interesting. Anyway, to me as a gamer, it's quite interesting. And that's right, like there's real money involved. This is something that's a little bit different from other games. So people can, I know it's not a word that we use all the time, like it's play to earn. People can play the game and earn on it. And the one thing that I think a lot of these other play-to-earns are failing in is that the games are not interesting and not fun. And that's something I really want to avoid with Earth 2. I want there to be a platform for our Phase 2 ecosim, but for it to have so many different strategies that people, you know, they get interested from that alone, the different strategies, the different things, the different ways that they can do the same thing or avoid conflict or what have you. And the end goal there is like being able to build these cool little ecosim setups and use these building blocks to build real experiences like skyscrapers, commercial, residential, you know, build droids, build transportation empires and all these type of things. So is Earth 2 going to be that in the future? No, like as Aussie1 said, this as time moves on, the platform morphs into additional experience. That's exactly what we're doing. We know that we can't do the Phase 3 stuff right now. We can't release that tomorrow. And I kind of think that building toward that Phase 3 is just as important as the Phase 3 itself. So the foundation that we set through things like Phase 2 and this 3D world and all these additional parts that we're building, these are just as important as the end goal. It's going to get us there. It's going to give us that foundation, and for people to really be involved, to be putting their time into the project, to be actually achieving and building things. So anyway, I thought that was a really interesting observation from Aussie1. And yeah, just wanted to have my 2 cents on it. As time moves on, you could see what we're building now in many different lights. But as time moves on, we will gradually morph into this end goal platform that we have for Earth 2. So we've got another question here from Jad. He was actually adding Liz, who's one of our community managers. And he says, I have a question about validation I've not seen brought up yet. If properties within a mine are not showing the resource dot, and one of those properties goes through with and is awarded validation, would all the other properties in that mine receive validation automatically, or would each individual property need to pass the validation individually? And great, this is a great question. I actually covered at the start of the video. I'll just recap very quickly. So what we're planning to do is that if one player validates and that validation is successful, we'll probably cast a net over that general area. Not every time, so we're not guaranteeing that that net or that radius will happen every time. We're not guaranteeing that the person who gets validated would be the epicenter of that area. However, if that does happen, then any other existing validations within that radius would be automatically approved, or more or less automatically approved. So if they don't have, then they will get the resource, but if they don't have the validation request in live with essence staked behind it, they won't get the essence bonus. So they'll get the resource. If they have a property in that radius, they will get the resource confirmed on their property. However, if there's no validation request in place with essence stake, they won't get that essence bonus. So I hope that makes sense. We have a comment here from Virtual Tycoon, and Virtual Tycoon says, most projects just build behind closed doors and don't release anything for 6 months or a year. Earth 2 lets us see the progress, mistakes along the way. I very much prefer this. Would you rather Earth 2 goes quiet for 6 months until resources are perfectly fine-tuned, or would you rather earn essence, rewards, and watch transparently as they work through the process? Virtual Tycoon, this was a really interesting comment, and it was so interesting, and I thought it was so cool and accurate that we actually edited some of this into our next vlog. I think it was something around that. We just wanted to make this statement because it is very true. Like, a lot of projects, they do disappear sometimes for like 12 months before they show anything. Or, okay, we're gonna knuckle down and start building stuff. You're not going to see anything, or you're not going to be able to receive anything for quite a period of time until we actually build it. Earth 2, we've done things differently, and we've been that way from day one. We wanted to include the community in every step along the way. We know what we believe will be important in the longevity or the long-term relevant moving pieces of Earth 2, like things like essence and jewels, EPLs, things like this that will be relevant long-term, resources. So what we've tried to do is, as you've said, like, we've tried to involve the Earth 2 community, give people access to this, even though it's on a 2D web page, even though it's not the most beautiful kind of user experience yet. We'll get to better experiences in the future with our 3D world. Even though those things are not available, we still wanted to provide these to the users. I wanted to. I felt very passionate about doing this. Instead of just disappearing and say, hey, we're building stuff, like, go away and just come back later. I was like, no, like, there's people who sincerely believe very strongly in this project, and hey, we're gonna roll out this stuff bit by bit, and we're gonna take the blows. Of course, we're not gonna get it right every time. Doing things the way that we're doing them is going to make us a lot more prone to mistakes. And yeah, of course, I'll put my hand up and say, of course, there's been mistakes along the way. But at the end of the day, without those mistakes and without taking that approach, there would very likely be a lot of players who would not have got anything. They wouldn't have been able to have jewels or crafting or collect essence. They wouldn't have been able to do any of these type of things had we just shut down like most other studios and said, hey, we're not going to release anything until we've got what we believe is like a really good final polished product. So yeah, Virtual Tycoon, I really appreciate that you made this statement, and I appreciate that you realized and noticed this, because it does mean a lot to us. We're not like your standard project. We're not we're doing things a little bit differently, and I thought it was really cool that you identified that, and I just wanted to say thank you for realizing it, and thanks for the comment altogether. Now, I'm not sure whether you guys enjoyed this or whether this video is just like way too long to listen to, and if it is, just let me know, because I have to take my time out. This is a Saturday evening here, around 7 p.m. and I've taken time out to come and record this. I don't know if it's too long for people to watch. If it is, just let me know in the comments below. I'll try and make shorter videos. I've just been really busy the last few weeks, and I haven't had a chance to share thoughts as I usually would. So I do like to maybe try and keep the videos to 5 minutes or so, and I'll try to do that next time. But if people do like this type of thing, let me know. I'll try to do some of this as well, maybe answer some questions that are randomly taken from Discord. It certainly gives me more to talk about with things that people are actually asking or curious about or making statements about. The next vlog should be going live in a little bit. Hope you guys enjoy that. The problem with the next vlog is I think it's just, it's quite visually stimulating. So when it's playing, like you're looking at the vlog, you're looking and looking, but because of all the looking, it's like you don't really comprehend all the words and what's being said in the background. It kind of gets blurred out because you're looking at all this different stuff. So my advice for the next vlog is just, I guess, maybe you watch it once and then watch it again and just try and listen to what the voiceover is saying, because there's a lot of interesting information in that voiceover. So that's my 2 cents on the vlog. Hope you guys are all keeping well, and hope you're all having a great weekend. Look forward to the next steps, and thanks for watching through this. See you later.